You're watching Fishing Saskatchewan, brought to you by The Fishing Hole. Get hooked with The Fishing Hole.
Well, here we are, Steve.
Yeah. And all because in the 70s, you had an idea.
Yeah.
And that idea was to make a better tip-up than was currently out there, or a tip-up.
Something. I was like every human being on earth. I worked in a factory. Everybody had a dream. Dream to get out and to go fishing. To make a long story short, I wanted to make fishing tackle because I enjoyed fishing. And I loved ice fishing. The polar tip-up, I made it out of plastic.
Yeah.
And in those days, everything was wood, and plastic was a challenge. But I knew that I would be able to price it right, and the fishermen would be able to afford it, and I could mass produce it. So, and the most important thing was lubricant. So to make a long story short, I built the polar tip-up in 1974, is when it started with the polar tip. After that, everything started to happen. I made small jig poles out of wood. Everything was done at my house. And I didn't meet Tom yet. I didn't meet you and Smitty until now. But everything has a journey. Well, to move this along, nobody knew about me. I had a tip-up. I was selling in a small radius in Wisconsin. And every year I'd take on 2-3 states, and I'd continue to spread out and travel and go door to door to any place where a fisherman would go, even a grocery store, so any place. And it was a lot of work, but I loved it. I was doing something I wanted to do, and I wouldn't look back. And one day, I met a man. I think this is the break that everybody on earth needs to get something really going, and it was a divine break. I met a man in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, by the name of Bill Binkelman. And Bill was up in age at that time, but he was a man that worked with Alan Ron Linder with the Lindy rigs, and he was a walleye specialist. He told Ron about me, and Ron told Bill, he said, when you see him, tell him I'd like to meet him sometime. I called Brainerd and tried to get in contact with Ron. I went through several secretaries. Finally, he came on the phone, and when he realized it was me, he said, come. So the next morning I got up early. I drove to Brainerd, got up there at 7:30 in the morning. It was a little too early, but he was there with his wife and my wife, and we all got together for a family visit. He did not know what I did for a living. All he knew was that Bill and I were dear friends. Well, and I didn't know what was coming either. This is not a pre-planned episode. Ron was talking to me for over an hour, and all of a sudden the door flies open. I'm startled. In rushes Al, and he said, Ron, do you remember that survey we sent out about 6 months or 8 months ago to all of our readers of In-Fisherman, asking what should we put, what do they want in In-Fisherman magazine? And over 60% of them were demanding ice fishing. So Ron said to Al, he said, Al, something will work out. Just don't worry about it. I can hear it, the tone, the words, I can hear it. And Al said, well, okay, but we better get on this and get something started because we got to have this done for the coming winter. All of a sudden he looks up at me and he said, Paul, what are you doing? What are you and Johanna doing? Well, I said, I'm on a little trip. Well, he said, what do you do for a living? Oh, I said, I'm not going to tell you. I feel if I tell you what I do for a living, it might wreck our friendship. I said, business is business, friendship is friendship. And I said, I just don't feel comfortable telling you. I just don't want to tell you. He said, I really want you to tell me what you do for a living. And I said, well, no, I just don't feel comfortable. And this went on for, well, maybe it felt like an hour, but, a minute went on and back and forth, Well, I said, okay, Ron, I said, I'll tell you what I do for a living. I make ice fishing tackle for a living. Really? Yeah, he says, I make ice fishing. and he just brightened right up. You can't believe the smile that was on his face. So we went down to Nelson's wedding studio. Back in those days, Chuck Nelson was the main photographer, and took a picture, me kneeling by the case. And that year was the In Fisherman's very first article on ice fishing. It was called Trap Attack. What do you use when you go ice fishing? And that was really the beginning of HT. And the next year there was over 5 pages of full color pictures and product endorsement. HT was on the map. And the polar tip-up was known throughout the United States in 1 year. To me, that was a miracle. And I just want to say that, Steve, for you and Smitty and Tom and all the hundreds, maybe thousands of people I met over the years, to me, there was always a beginning. But I never create anything to have an end. I guess I feel that when we do something, we want to do it so it lives on, maybe forever. And Tom, I met Tom at Camp Fish. I don't know, how many years ago was that, Tom?
It was over 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago. And now here I'm sitting, Steve, with you and Smitty. And to me, here in Saskatchewan, this is the beginning of a new era. So your program, and so you had the ultimate resource, Fishing Saskatchewan. To me, that is a tremendous outreach, and we want to be part of it. When I'm about 95, I plan on being up here, and we'll take them snowmobiles out there again. And I may not drive, but I'll be with you. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Steve and Smitty.
Thanks very much for coming up.
This is a special time for me. So
Great.
You betcha, you guys.
Glad you enjoyed it.
It's been my ultimate pleasure.